Welcome everybody to part 3 of our information series for core content for Salesforce. In this part we will focus on setting up the OAuth connection between Salesforce and core content. But before we get started, let's take a look at the agenda that we have prepared for today's session. Okay, first things first, we'll go into Knowledge Center and get the necessary documentation from there. We are going to use the documentation as a guide wire to lead us through the configuration that we are planning to do for today, setting up this OAuth connection. First, we will start on the Salesforce side, creating there a new connected app, and then we do the same in core content, where we set up the OAuth client. Then we need to do a couple of system parameters. So configure system parameters. We are going to configure the content repository in Salesforce for core content, connecting the core content OAuth client, and connecting the content services from core content so that we can leverage those. And then last but not least, we're then going to configure remote site settings in Salesforce and core content to make sure that the two apps that they can talk to each other freely without any limitation. Then last thing is we're going to test the connection, and I would expect a couple of issues arising from the configuration, and we're going to use this then as well to troubleshoot the connection in order to get this all working. So you may be asking yourself, what is OAuth? So essentially OAuth is an abbreviation for Open Authorization, which is a standardized protocol designed to facilitate secure authorization for third-party application to access server data without necessitating the sharing of credentials, user credentials like passwords and whatsoever. It typically operates over HTTPS, and OAuth relies on token to authenticate and authorize application access to data, following specific user-defined scopes and time limitations. In the context of our scenario here, core content will leverage the OAuth connection to establish a connection with Salesforce. So without further ado, let's now get started. And first thing is we're going to Knowledge Center. If you don't remember exactly how to navigate here to this administrator guide, you can go back into part 1 where I demonstrated how to navigate through Knowledge Center in order then to find the documentation that you are looking for. Then we are going to use here the HTML guide, and then we just want to focus here on integration with Salesforce. In part 1, we installed the packages. Part 2 was the focus of normal authentication. And now part 3 is where we focus on the OAuth connection, setting that up in the system. And for that, we are starting off in Salesforce, where we are going to create a new connected app. And do that configuration first, and there's a couple of things that we need then to copy and put aside. We will need that later on in the configuration. Then we are moving into core content and create there a new outbound connection that will then leverage the OAuth service in Salesforce. Okay, let's now log into Salesforce. That's our demo org that we have prepared, and we're logging in here. And probably the first thing we want to go into the setup area of Salesforce in order then to begin with the configuration. Okay, so in Salesforce, let's open the documentation for a moment. Exactly what we need to do. Okay, first things first, we need to go and make sure that this OAuth is activated in the org, and that's on the setup, OAuth, and OpenID connection connect settings. And we find here OAuth There we go. OAuth and OpenID and Connect settings. And we're looking here in particular for allow OAuth username and password flow. So we need to make sure that we activate this first. And that's pretty much it. Step is to create the connected app in Salesforce. And we go here, apps, app manager, then new connected app. So remember from part 2 where we created the SAML connection here, we're going to now create a similar connection but for the purpose of using it for OAuth, new connected app. Alright, here is connected app. I like to use something like this, which indicates which Salesforce system that we are connecting to and then also the purpose of the connection. So we use for the SAML, obviously _SAML, and here for OAuth, we're using _OAuth. The API name is automatically, so that's the internal, the technical name, that's automatically proposed, so we're going to leave that as is. So here we want to enter a contact email address. And that's it for that part. Now to enable the OAuth settings. And here we have a couple of things that we need to complete. Okay, as callback URL, we can come back to that later. For right now, we just need to put in a placeholder and we can pass this step HTTPS. Okay, that should suffice. And then from the documentation, we need to move the manage user data via API from the available scope to the selected scope. User data via API. Move that over into the selected OAuth scope. And that should be all it. The rest we can leave as is here. Okay, no concern right now. We are going to save. Okay, so this can take a couple minutes to get this request fulfilled. So let's just continue here. Okay, and from here we will need the consumer key and the secret. We can request this from here. Click on this button. It will obviously open. And there will be a verification email sent. I'll go and get that code from the email. Here, verify our access. As said, here these are the two values, the consumer key and the consumer secret that we will need for completing the configuration later on. So let's just copy this and keep it in a separate text file in a notepad or so. And consumer secret as well. The good thing is you can always come back here to this in case you lost it or you're not sure anymore and get basically the consumer key and the secret again. Okay, with this complete, cancel here. And we can go back here to the documentation. So we completed all of these steps. We can copy those two values. All right, next step is basically to go into core content. Okay, let's move over to core content and let's log in to our core content admin client. All right, while this is loading, let's go take a look at the documentation. So connection for core content, integrations outbound. We're going to create a new connection there for the entire tenant with the following settings. Okay. Here also we need to put in the endpoints, so the Salesforce endpoints for the OAuth, for the Apex REST endpoint. And then from the previous procedure, the OAuth client ID and the secret. And last but not least as well, from the Salesforce user, the password and obviously the security token. And that's, I'm going to show you how we're going to get this from Salesforce. Okay. Okay, here we are in the admin center of our core content tenant. And we need to create a new connection. So integrations, connections, add, and then remember we need to create a connection for the entire tenant. And as connection name, we're going to use exactly the same name that we have used on the Salesforce side to create this PM1. That's our client here. OAuth client for PM01. Okay, the connection type is OAuth. OAuth authentication. And now we need to fill in these configuration parameters. The route for authentication is, go back to the documentation, it's basically our Salesforce org /services/OAuth2. Okay, for the BO service, it's the Salesforce org /services Apex REST XECM. And the next is the OAuth client ID, and for that purpose, so that's the consumer key that we just copied from Salesforce. It was here, and then the secret. Okay, and then we need the OAuth username and the OAuth password. Let's take a look at the documentation. Okay, so the password is password plus the security token concatenated together, and the username what we use to log into Salesforce. Okay, let's go get this. Okay, let's go here to Salesforce, and we are logged in here as the user that we want to use for the connection, for the OAuth connection. You may have in your environment a dedicated integration user, so you may need then to log in as this integration user in order to get the user password and the secret. Okay, so we get the secret from the settings, the user, and reset my security token. Okay, so the email has arrived, and in the background I did update my text file. Let's go back here into the admin center. So our OAuth username, password, and the security token concatenated as one string together. That's what goes here into the OAuth password. So we can just click add and create this connection. Okay, let's go back to the documentation. So we just completed here the connection, the core content connection. Okay, so that's all done. So good. Then let's move on to the next step. So that's setting up these various system parameters and OAuth settings. First thing is, I think step 2 we can disregard for the moment. We will need it later, so we'll come back to this then in step 8. So I'm not going to do this right now. The first thing is, let's go into core content again and create a service client. And the service client is for the core content app. and we need to assign also the subscription administrator role to that service client. And then from here, absolutely make notes. So you need to copy and paste. So basically copy the secret and the client ID and keep that in your text file, because there's no way that you can go back into core content and retrieve those details. Okay, so we need to add here a service client. And remember it needs to be app specific, so we select this option. The app to connect is our core content PM SFTC01 tenant. Next, and we gave it a name. It's going to be for me PM01_client. The authentication method is client secret, that's fine. Access token lifetime, we can leave that at 900, and the refresh token lifetime, we can leave that at this setting as well. Let's make sure that we enable here application administrator under the roles, and let's add the connection. Okay, so here it's very important that we save the client ID, and as well here the secret. Alright, if I close this, basically there's no way that you can get back to those two values, so it's really important that you maintain those in your text file. Okay, let's go back to the documentation. So we just did all of this. Next is to go back to Salesforce and continue there the configuration and the core content for Salesforce app, and set up basically the repository general set. Here, so we have our own admin center here. Here we want to go into system configuration, repository, general settings. Make sure that we have here core content as a repository. Okay, so let's take a look at the documentation for the next steps. Okay, so we need to go repository, core content, and set up the external system ID, which is in our case the OAuth authentication, the outbound connection we created in core content. We need to get the description URLs from core content, and as well the BO endpoints that's for core content. That depends on where your core content tenant is located, whether it's in the US, Canada, or elsewhere. There are different BO endpoints that we defined. And the SSO handler, the tenant ID, and then the ETS, so entitlement service endpoints. We also need to configure all of this. Okay, so the general settings, that's what we just set up in the previous step. Next is to set up the repository for core content. And first things first, the query string we can leave as is. There is no need to change that, that's a standard value. And what we need next is the external system ID. And we can get this from the core content admin center, and under integration, connection name. And so that's the connection name that we will need for that configuration setting. Copy this value and insert it into here, this field. The next is the subscription URL. This is also something we get from the admin client. Apps, go to the subscription. And then we have here the link to app. We can just copy here the value from here and insert it into the content subscription URL field, Salesforce. Okay. Next is we need the BO service endpoint, and this differs from depending on where your tenant, where your core content subscription tenant is located, in what locale. So we can get this from the documentation. And we need the endpoint, the BO service endpoint. We know our tenant is in the Canadian data center, so it is the ccmbo.ca.opentext.com. I can just take the value from here, put this into here. Then we need the tenant SSO handler, and that's from the admin center. We do this, we get this from the back. We need to go back to the tenant level. There we go. And authentication, that's our authentications that we created. Authentication provider, authentication schema, URL. And from the URL we need the authentication handler, so the auth handler, this value that we need from here. They've insert this in this field. Next is the core content tenant ID. We know where the tenant ID is. That is right here. Copy. And goes into this configuration field here. The last thing is the ETS service endpoint, and we get this again from the documentation. So here the core content ETS endpoint. And again, for the same, we are looking here for the endpoint for the Canadian data center. I'll take that right from here and insert it into this field. So this is all that we need to do here, and save the configuration. Okay, that looks all good. The configuration is saved. We can move on to the next step. Okay, with this all squared away, let's go to the documentation and see what we have to do next. So we can skip that. That's not essential for the configuration here to set up the string for the merged workspaces. We saved, and next is basically the OAuth configuration in the Salesforce side. Okay, so we need the auth client ID, the client secret, and now you remember that's from our content, so we copied that into our text file because we cannot get back to this in core content, so we get this out of the text file. Authorization URL, so that's really again here the CA, that's what we're going to use here. Token URL, the tenant in the CA domain. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this. Okay, here in Salesforce, security, so system configuration, security, auth, duration, the 4 values or settings that we will need. Okay, so as said, we have this in our text file here. This is what we need: the client ID, and the secret. The OAuth authorization URL. Again, authorization URL. Purpose is OTTS auth DA OAuth 2. Take this directly here from the documentation, otherwise you will have to put this together. Here, and the token URL. Here. Here. Duration. Okay, save. Okay, so far so good. Here to the documentation. Next thing is the directory service or OTDS. Alright, that's also the system configuration directory service. So for the directory service config, we just need to know the OTDS REST web service URL. Let's get the documentation what that is. So it is for, in our case, because we are in the CA OpenText domain, this value here, so we can use that OTDS API and bring that over here and save. Okay, so that configuration is saved as well. Back here, that's all good. All right, so now next is to run the diagnostic. Let's go back here into Salesforce and it's a little bit simpler here. So after reports, diagnostic report, that's going to take a couple moments. Okay, so here is the diagnostic report. That's pretty new actually. So we've done a lot of work to improve this report, make it more useful. Right now for us, really, our focus is first one, the system configuration setting diagnosis. And that's, I would say, pretty much to expect. The OAuth URL test fail indicates that we need to basically update security controls, remote site settings, and basically make whitelist those various endpoints. Okay, so that's going to be our next step, to whitelist the various URL. Diagnostic report, remote site settings. First is in Core Content Admin Center, integration trusted sites. So we need to introduce basically force URLs to the trusted site environment. Okay, that's expected. Let's look back in here to our content tenant. Okay, and here we have tenant trust. So there are no URLs currently exist, so let's start putting those in place. Okay, so the first URL that we need to whitelist here is for Salesforce Lightning. Salesforce Lightning, so that's the URL what we need. Get this right here from Salesforce itself. Take this value and add URL. Okay. All right. And the next one is for that's for classic. Add URL. What else? So number one is complete. Now on the Salesforce side, you following Salesforce security remote site settings. And let's just go there and remote settings. Okay, so that's a whole lot to configure here. So I went ahead and did actually this in my text editor here. So I'll prepare these various URL, and as well I'm a big fan of here that it's clear what these URLs are. Especially if you come back here in a year from now whatsoever, then this helps to remember those settings were for. Okay. So I'll go ahead and put this into the configuration. Add remote site. There we go. And it requires here obviously to give it a name. And so that these here names, what they are for. Description URL. Active. Save. Okay. I'm going to do this for all the other settings that I have. Alright, so that was the last entry. Back here to the remote site settings, and that's how it looks when the configuration is all complete. Let's take a look here at the documentation. So we have the subscription URL, the BO service endpoint, the OAuth authorization URL, the OTDS REST API, and then the ETS service URL, and as well as the App Exchange URL. We need that's for one of the reminder services that we have built in the product to notify you when there are new Salesforce packages available for you for your order. Okay. So with that said, let's go back to our diagnostic report and review whether there are any other outstanding issues shown. Okay, so good thing is the system configuration settings, all these issues that we had listed before, they're cleared up. So we pass all these checks, meaning that, okay, those values are okay. And it does not mean, however, it does not mean that we can connect to core content or core content and Salesforce, they can yet talk to each other. So we need to validate that separately. Okay, anything else in here? The user sync and the group mapping, we can ignore those for now. We don't need them at the moment, but everything else seems to be consistent and pass diagnostic. So let's go and check out the connectivity in core content. And we do that here from the admin center. And from admin center, we're going here into apps. We want to launch the subscription client. And here in the subscription client, we want to go and actually launch the subscription. So launch core content if you want. So we are leaving admin center. All right, that does not look what I would expect here. So let's think a moment. Okay, I have an idea. So oftentimes an error like this or an issue like this may indicate that the user is not part of the subscription yet. So let's go and validate that. Remember, we are still here in the subscription and I can already see my user. So I'm logged in here as OSG development at opentext.com. I don't see that user here part of the subscription. So let's make this account an admin. Go over here into the admin section because we need to have admin privileges for this user. Add admin, and then the was OSG development, and that's the user. Yep, OSG development native. Add. We're going to see this now here showing up here in the admin section. And as well, then under the user section, we see now the OSG development user is assigned to. Okay, so far so good. Let's go back here, overview, and look here at the linked app. Okay, so I think that's more like what I would have expected here. Okay. I see we're making here headways. Let's get into the subscription. Okay, so there we are. All right, so let's close this. We don't need this right now for the moment. Okay, we are here in core content. Let's go into the administration area of core content. And then the first real connection test, we're going to start it from here. Okay. Right, so workspace types. So we go add. We want to have a connected workspace, and that's connecting to our Salesforce system. And let's just get here. So it's a required field. And then down here, how we gonna select the connected system, Salesforce, and here is now what our OAuth connection shows up. Selecting from here to get a list of all the Salesforce object types, business object types that are configured or that we imported in Salesforce as part of the solution accelerator. Okay, so normally this takes a few seconds, but from here I can probably already tell that was not successful. Okay, so how do we now know what's happening here behind the scenes? Let's open the web developer tools. That gives us a little bit more insight. Probably what's happening here. So let me bring this over. Okay. Console. All right. So I don't see here anything. So let's redo this one more time and capture as well everything that's happening. So I'm gonna start from the beginning, reset. Okay. Account. Let me select our connected system, Salesforce, our OAuth connection, and here. Okay. So let's see here. Okay, so there we have a bunch of things. And then probably what's most interesting to us is that 400 down here, business object types. Let's see what this is all about. Okay. So there's a lot to read and understand on here. What I normally do is validate the URL. So that's basically the URL, the endpoint that is. So let's just copy this. We're going to open a new tab here and paste this into the address box. And this gives me already a little bit more insight, okay, what the potential error is. So we know it's a 400, it's an authentication error, so something with our PM01_OAuth connection doesn't seem to work. Connection OAuth unauthorized. Okay. All right. So let's go back to Admin Center. Let's go take a look here. Connections, our PM_OAuth. Take a look here. All right. So we got this OAuth authentication, URL root for authentication, PM01. So let's see what our documentation says about that. Go back here, authentication. Here we are in operations outbound, URL root for authentication, OpenText, mysalesforce.com. Okay. mysalesforce.com services OAuth. What do we have here? Ah, look at that. Okay. So I can see here that might be the issue. So, all right, let's go and change this and edit. So we don't. Okay. All of this. Oh, yeah, do the documentation. So, okay. Just want to be my sales. All right, yes. PM01. Salesforce.com service OAuth. Okay. And then down again here from now they should be the correct endpoints. Okay, save. The rest OAuth client ID. No secret. That's what we copied from over from Salesforce. We're going to App Manager and look for our m01_OAuth. Alright, that's exactly where I wanted it to be. Okay, manage consumer details. I'll take a look here. I just got that email. Copy the value. Alright, so let's take a look here. So that's our consumer key and consumer secret. Oh no, actually, just edit. Okay. Take here, copy consumer key. Find. Okay. And secret. Okay. Then that's our correct user, and then Salesforce user password and the security tokens. I'll just copy it again from my text file and save. So, alright. All the settings here in the connection are correct. So we updated this and that. Now let's go back to here to our URL. Let me hit this again. Aha, all right. So that looks closer to what we would expect. Okay, so these are basically now the object types from Salesforce, the bio types from Salesforce, from the enabler that we configured on the enabler side that are fetched and can be loaded into core content. So okay, that's good. Okay, now here let's do this. Account, Salesforce, select here our PM. There we go. So exactly. So that's what I expect here to this list to show up. So this tells me that the system, so that we can connect from core content to Salesforce in order to get the business object definitions downloaded from Salesforce, because we need that here to create connected workspaces. And reset this. And with that said, we basically validated, we proved that the OAuth connection that we set up as part of this session does work. Okay, let's go to the slide deck and let's take a look. There we go. Okay, so from the session outline, so we did get the documentation, we configured the OAuth connection in Salesforce, and the OAuth client in core content and the service client in core content. We did configure the system parameters, setting up the repository config. We did this too. Core content OAuth client, so we connected that. Set up the content directory services. We did this as well. And then the remote site settings in both Salesforce and core content, so whitelisting the various URLs, so that the two systems can talk to each other. And finally, we also did a quick connection test of the OAuth connection. After finding some issues, we did the troubleshooting. So there may be other, when you configure this connection, there may be other issues that may come up. So essentially, what I always suggest is, hey, if you have troubles with your connection, go back to the documentation and really review every single step in the documentation and compare it whether you have the correct values. And as you saw in the troubleshooting session here, a mistake, me putting together these endpoints for the OAuth connection, making a small mistake there, basically jeopardized entire connectivity. So go double check, triple check your configuration, compare it against the documentation, and this will oftentimes resolve most, if not all, the connection settings. Okay, with that said, that's it for this session. We will have additional sessions here prepared for continue with the journey connecting core content and Salesforce together and get it to a working system. With that said, thank you, and until the next session.